Hey guys, welcome to the Ultimate Personal Trainer Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about functional gut health and functional gut analysis. And the reason I want to talk about gut health, besides the fact I hate the words gut health, is it's something that a lot of personal trainers are dipping their toes into, talking about how they can help their clients with a very limited understanding of what actually constitutes good gut health and how to assess it and how to work with it. And first thing I want to say is this is something that's entirely not within the scope of practice for personal trainers. The thing with gut health is it is a very nebulous term and it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So if we're looking at actual medical conditions where gut health is an actual issue, such as Crohn's disease, this is something we're not legally allowed to work with. We can still train clients, and that's absolutely fine, but it's really kind of outside of our scope of practice to be recommending diets for people who have got Crohn's disease. A lot of coaches will recommend a whole bunch of supplements without having any kind of evidence base behind it or understanding what's going on. So what I want to do in this podcast is talk a little bit about gut health and how we can actually work with it as personal trainers, more based on our lifestyle elements of our clients and some of the misconceptions. So the first thing I want to touch on with gut health is it's not the responsibility or the fault of one single food or element in that person's life. The gut is one area where a lot of people become really biased and really start to assign one particular causative factor, gluten, dairy, stress, whatever it is, as being the cause of all that person's ills. When really, the enteric nervous system and the digestive tract is multifaceted in so many different ways and hosts so many different interactions and is so susceptible and influenced by our lifestyle factors that starting to diagnose things and starting to look for these problems, it's very, very easy to find them. When looking at someone's digestive health, to find something that actually suits our cognitive bias, and then we'll recommend things to people to find out exactly what's going on. Now, what we can do as personal trainers is I actually recommend the avoidance of all lab tests for personal trainers because they're expensive, we're not qualified to do them, and we don't actually know how to interpret them. So if we're not interpreting them properly, getting a lab test is basically mental masturbation. It's not helping the client in any way. So here's the most useful way that you can look at someone's diet. The first thing is to start looking at getting someone to do a 7-day food and gut health journal. Okay, we actually want to figure out if they have an actual problem with their guts over time or if it's something that's quite reactive. This is something we can certainly do and get away with because there's nothing actually wrong with it. So when we're looking at someone's 7-day food and gut health journal, we can actually see if there's actual problems with it. Now, a lot of the time, I see this happen. I see the gut health problems magically clear up. And the reason for that is because the person changes their diet simply because of the fact they're writing it down. The vast majority of clients will lose weight when you implement a 7-day diet journal because what they'll do is they'll start being aware of what they're eating. It's really, really very simple, fundamental thing that we can kind of be aware of. That as soon as you're conscious about something, you start changing those behaviors very, very quickly. From here, if someone is still struggling with gut health, the first thing that we need to look at is the actual lifestyle context of those particular incidences. Is it happening morning? Is it happening at night? Is it happening throughout the day? Is it happening around the same time as the food? Is it happening around 6 to 8 hours or 6 to 12 hours after a particular food, meal, incident, or event? This whole process of trial and elimination and creating mindfulness is actually the key thing to looking at someone's gut health to see if there are particular incidents around that is causing that person's problems. This is how we can work with our clients on it and actually address so many more things like how they eat, how mindful they are when they're eating, do they eat in a relaxed state, are they eating on the run, what are they drinking fluids, what other factors are going on in their life that are actually affecting them and their ability to have proper digestion. And this is the most effective way, bar none, to do this because you can start looking at stuff and understanding how that individual works. So, for example, I am consulting a client, consulting a trainer who has a client now who won't eat for about 5 hours before a martial arts class for fear of it actually interfering in their digestion. Now, if you want to adequately fuel for a martial arts class, a highly anaerobic activity, you do want to have some carbohydrates in your system at least 45 to 90 minutes before that particular exercise. If that is actually causing gastric distress for you, it tells us a couple of things. A, they're eating in a rush state or they're incredibly anxious about what they're going to do. If someone eats food 2 hours before an activity and vomits it up during that activity, is generally a sign of low levels of digestive juices and gastric acids, so we may need to look at how they're actually eating. For this particular person, what I would do is I would recommend a liquid food option for that person because it requires a little bit less digestion. If they still have digestive issues while training, having that 2 hours before exercise, it's more of a sign that something psychological is going on rather than something physiological, because they can break that food down very, very effectively in 2 hours. If they're literally having a protein shake with a mashed up banana in it, it shouldn't be a problem for that particular client. It's a sign that something deep is going on. So a lot of the time with your gut health analysis that you'll do with clients, you'll actually find that it's things like limited sleep, high levels of stress, poor eating habits while they're actually eating, and a general lack of awareness of what's going on that's causing their problems. For people who blame gluten and dairy and all this other stuff, what they'll find is they feel better when they go off it. But when they go on it, they generally don't just eat like a scoop of ice cream or like something small. They generally eat a bowl of ice cream or a large portion. And quite often it's the portion that makes the poison rather than the actual substance itself. So what I recommend, if someone is claiming to be dairy intolerant and every time they have dairy, they explode and they have a whole bunch of different issues, actually get them to have a reasonable portion of that food and see what happens. Quite often it's the quantity rather than the quality that makes the difference in that person's outcome. So guys, if you're a personal trainer, if you want to get the best outcomes for your clients, you do need to be aware of intestinal health. You need to be aware of digestion and all the factors there. We haven't gone into the physiology of it today, or things like the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, the GALT, because these are things that we don't need to work with the vast majority of our clients. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and the vast majority of clients get the best improvements from the digestive tract by simply optimizing their digestion, getting them to slow down a little bit, getting them to chew their food properly, and looking at the other surrounding issues around the food rather than looking at high-level supplementation, high-level assessment, and working out what's going on at a cellular level. Keep your solution simple for your client and easy to implement, and you're going to get far better outcomes. You're going to be staying within your scope of practice, and people are going to refer you a lot more clients because it's far more accessible for you to work with that. Thanks heaps for listening, guys. I'll see you soon.